record this. I will officially now record this meeting. So again, hi Fabia. Hi everybody again. So this is the recording of the Info and Fundraising Event Night. For that, all right, excellent. So we are now opening the questions to myself or to each of the subjects, whether it's to Joniad, Azizah, or Ashfaq. Also, one more disclaimer, Ashfaq will have his own feature time a bit later at some point as well. And we also have another performance night reading later as well by Joniad and Azizah, because they both volunteered. All right. So I'll get Joniad to answer this question. I'm not sure if this is actually a question or not. This is what Shuganya told us. In Indonesia, 398 Sri Lankan refugees and 62 South live in total poverty or are detained across Australian funded accommodation. They have been left in limbo without any certainty of their rights or resettlement. And there are 398 refugees who arrived since 2013, not been resettled anywhere else. Please help resettle us. Again, none of us are in a position to help with resettlement, but we will at least try to raise awareness as best as we can. All righty. So Martin, can you tell me who is the first person ready for the question? Okay, if no one asks, that's okay. Well, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna ask some basic questions to Joniad to start with. So Joniad, can you first describe how it all started with you with the documentary and what happened with you since then?
Hello. Yep. So you want me to start with the documentary? Could you clear your
just
question
how
a
you
little
came
bit?
to be.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I have been looking for a platform, something bigger to express myself and also tell the world about the refugee situation in Indonesia. And it was quite difficult to get media attention in Indonesia because most of the Indonesians are very reluctant to do anything for refugees. That's because they have been ill-informed and ill-educated by their own governments and to keep them separated, from the refugee issues, because Indonesia doesn't really prioritize about refugees issue. Then I happen to know Alfred through one of my friends from Pakistan. He was also refugees. Then that's how we got to know each other and we started filming the documentary. And since then until now, I have been covering about refugee situation, and Alfred is doing his best, to support us and also our work and everything in between. So what was the next question, Alfred?
So what have you done since the first filming? Yeah, and just explain that. I did return to Indonesia twice. This is all pre-pandemic. So yeah, and describe what your experiences was like during the filming.
Well, I guess it was very emotional, I can say, because for the first time I was telling everything in detail about my suffering and how I was trapped in Indonesia. But the good thing is that I have turned to a journalist because after sharing all these things, and I have found a new way of expressing myself through my writings and journalisms. So that's what something that I feel grateful of my time in Indonesia, even though it is something that can be described, more likely as hell living in Indonesia. But because I was forced by the circumstances that kind of like very hard to survive, which make me to be something as as a voice for the voiceless. And this is something that I'm grateful of, and that I've been able to raise the awareness widely around the world, published in international media such as Al Jazeera, and also the BuzzFeed and SBS and other, a lot of magazines. And I'm still continuously publishing. And now I'm working as an editor at the Archipelago, and we have also founded, a refugee magazine successfully in Indonesia. So I would like all of you, to visit our magazine where you can read more about refugees as well. And refugees have now a direct voice on that magazine.
Thank you so much for that information, Joniad. If you are interested in supporting a lot of refugee-run organizations in Indonesia or organizations that are helping refugees in Indonesia, there is the link in the main chat that I'm about to share just about now. So you guys can have a look there. We will also share all of this information later on if you guys request that. But just before we move on to the next subject, I just want to explain a little bit more about how this situation is actually connected to the Australian side, at least some brief information about it. So as you all know, a lot of people that arrive by boat actually have to transit through Indonesia. It's really, really rare to have someone or some boats that directly sailed away from around Papua New Guinea or elsewhere to Australia. It's very rare. Majority from transiting through Indonesia, and of course, all of that change. But again, for those of you who have joined us, for most of you, this narrative is probably already established in your consciousness. This is not a brand new information. What I'm trying to actually do with this film is to actually connect all the different dots, the different elements that hasn't been previously talked about by the experts that I've interviewed, including Moshkan Muaref, who is also the person who behind the Refugee and Asylum Seeker Information Center in Jakarta. She is in RAIC, is basically the equivalent of ASRC, but in Jakarta, Indonesia. And also other experts, which I'm more than happy to talk about. And at the end of the day, what will be revealed in this film is how Australian government actually cooperates with Indonesia and just in the neighbors in general, and how this is all going to be working and the connectedness of it. Now I will open up the question to Mark because he has a question. So Mark, can you unmute yourself and ask your question and just tell us who you are directing the question
to? So first, I'm Mark from Refugee Action Coalition in Sydney and also Teachers for Refugees, and great to see so many familiar names and faces on here. Congratulations, Alfred, on the progress so far. I guess it's to any of the three, protagonists who addressed us before. I was there basically 2 years ago, and when I was there, that was a very large series of protests, particularly in Jakarta. But I know, Joniad did many of them at the UN and Australian consulate and so on. So I guess I've always been so impressed by the organizing capability of people in very, very difficult circumstances. I guess I have to admit I have not been in the loop so much in the last, say, 6 to 12 months on the particular situation. So I guess, like, with the severity of COVID now in Indonesia, like, maybe I'm asking a very obvious question, but what sort of impacts has this had on the ability of you guys on the ground to be able to continue to organize collectively and get the word out about the situation.
Can I get both Joniad, Ashfaq, and Ashfaq to answer that? And if Azizah wants to pitch in, feel free as well. Can I get both Joniad and Ashfaq to answer that? And if Azizah wants to pitch into that, feel free.
Should I answer that, Alfred?
Yes, yes. So
Go for it.
Joniad and Ashfaq, answer that, please.
That's a very good question, and it's a very challenging situation for refugees in Indonesia now. I have written a piece on that and published in BBC Indonesia. The situations and also the sufferings of refugees has now been doubled by the pandemic, and refugees in living in IOM accommodation are mostly suffering from mental disorder. That's because they are still, living under the severe restriction, and on the other hand, the fear of being in a crowded place that's also, contribute to their mental, illness. And since the beginnings of the pandemic, 6 refugees have committed suicide, and many have died due to medical neglect. And the situation has further worsened for the refugees in Jakarta that are not under IOM. There are about 7,000 refugees living across Jakarta, and they are forced, to fend themselves without any work right in Indonesia. So before the pandemic, this refugee would do some of the livelihood activities to survive, at least to have 2-time meals. And even then, many were not actually surviving well. Many didn't have, enough money to pay for the rent. But when the pandemics came, spread all over Indonesia, these refugees lost their livelihood, and many were actually like going to some of the refugees funded classes, school, and these are also stopped. So which means all the refugee activities, have stopped, and they are like, that's also contributing to their mental illness. And many refugees are now suffering mentally and also financially in Jakarta. And at the same time, the government also excluded the refugees from national healthcare services, which means if a refugee gets sick, then they don't have any access to medical help. And also the just last month, I interviewed a few refugees who had been infected by the COVID-19. And then I asked their situations. They were literally left alone in their own accommodation, not accommodation, their own house. House means like rented room. And no one's there to look after them. And they don't have like any support coming from the governments or from NGOs. And they told me that they have contacted to some of the refugees NGOs in Indonesia. All of them refused to help them. And they don't have even, enough money to buy food. And they don't have any medication. So I asked them how they are surviving and how they are treating themselves. And they said they are just making some home medication like ginger, onions, those kind of stuff. So somehow they have recovered, but I later learned that around 20% of the refugees in Indonesia are infected by the COVID-19. And I also did some research in the government's system and asked some NGOs if there are any plan for refugee vaccination. And then I learned that Indonesia's government is only prioritizing its own citizens and excluded refugees, from vaccination plan as well. So there is no vaccination plan for refugees. And there is no medical plan for refugees, and there is no financial help available for refugees. So I can't imagine being in their place at the moment, how they are surviving in Jakarta. So that is the current situation of refugees. And many people, what I can say now is that many refugees are dying. And this is what I'm afraid of when I wake up every day. I don't want to hear another refugee died, you know, because if something happened, refugee would call me, another refugee died. And this is not about making news. This is very devastating news. And I don't want to make this kind of news. And I don't want to hear this kind of thing, every day. So and this also contribute to my mental health, and it's very very difficult for me to handle my mental health as well. I need to see the psychologist like occasionally to recover myself. And here in every day, just the day before yesterday, I went to interview a family in Cisarua. They have like six children, and they don't have any help coming from anywhere. And I don't know. When I asked them, how do you survive? They were all crying, and I couldn't continue my interview. I just left. So this is the situation of refugee in Indonesia. And Australia is indirectly responsible for refugees, as we have all learned the policy that Australia implemented since 2002. And then it's further developed in 2013, and then in 2014, which Australia says after refugees who arrive in 2014 will never be, uh, you know, uh, allowed to resettle in Australia. So refugees are now become Australians hostage and being used as pawns, to serve an example for the potential refugee that might think to go to Australia. And yeah, so we are basically trapped because of the Australians' deterrent policy, and it is now the situations how the policy has affected the refugees' life in Indonesia.
Thank you, Junaid. Just before we get Ashfaq as he's to answer this question, just want to contextualize a little bit about the types of refugees that are stuck in Indonesia. So there's two streams of refugees that are stuck in Indonesia. Those that are accommodated in the Australian funded hostels via the IOM, the International Organization for Migration. As of the latest statistics, there's about 8,500 of them roughly that are located and are located in these hostels, and about 8,500 of those people receive monthly stipends individually of about $125 Australian per month, plus $50 per child that they have each month, which is actually uh, just about the poverty line of Indonesia in general. It's definitely not enough. But then there's actually about 5,000 or so refugees that are just not supported, that are just fully destitute. And majority of those people actually came about to Indonesia after March 2018, since Australia has started to stop more further funding towards the IOM in Indonesia. So there are actually now about 5,000 refugees that are just fully destitute, mostly located in the Jakarta area. So there's actually two streams of refugees in Indonesia: those that are in the Australian accommodation, in which we're indirectly responsible, and those that are just fully destitute. Ashfaq, and Azizah, can you explain what the COVID situation like is in Makassar? I know it's not as bad as Jakarta, but can you guys explain it from your perspective? Ashfaq first and then Azizah.
Hi, the situation of Makassar here is until now it's lockdown, and slowly the government of Indonesia they were moving the time. So the bad thing is since the first time of COVID has started, we have not seen IUM in our accommodation. We have not seen any person from UNHCR. Even if we need something to ask from UNHCR, IUM, we just email them and we just message them, just IUM. Sometimes they answer us, otherwise nobody is here to care about us. We cannot even ask about our resettlement process. We cannot even ask about anything because there is no one for us to care about us. So, and it's difficult to go outside also because of the lockdown, and the situation is too bad in here. Yeah, that's it.
And Aziza?
Hello everyone. In my in my opinion now, due to COVID, I have I cannot say it about anyone because I don't know about other person, because since COVID I cannot visit anyone or one of my friends because I worry that I might bring some sickness for them even though I'm not sick, but it's better for me to take care for all of us, because COVID has affect too much. And then yeah, I don't know how people get COVID even in my accommodation where I stay. I wonder how my friend get a COVID, because they even didn't go outside and they still get COVID. And when they get COVID, they have to do quarantine for almost 2 weeks. And then since there we don't see a person, or even we don't see anyone, all we do, we just lock down and quarantine ourselves in the home. There is no communication, no resettlements process things, no IOM, and as like Ashfaq said, there is nothing, no news, nothing. All we do, we just lock down ourselves in the home. And yeah, some of them they believe on pray, so some of them they pray, or some of them they just sit in the home doing nothing because of COVID situations.
Thank you for sharing that, Aziza. I do have a question for Ashfaq. Ashfaq, can you tell me where you're actually from and why the Afghanistan situation is actually very close to home for you? I mean, you're not from Afghanistan, but can you tell me where you're from and explain that and why it's impossible for you to return?
Actually, my city name in Pakistan is Parachinar, and it's located in KPK, and it's very close. I mean, it's about just 1 kilometer border with
Uh, one moment, guys. Ashfaq,
Afghanistan.
can you start again? Because you cut out before.
And before or maybe my headset, sorry. Actually, the Parishioner is a part of Pakistan, and it's located in KPK, and it's very near and very close with the border of Afghanistan. Like even we can go by walking also to Afghanistan, and the people of Afghanistan, they can move to Parachinar without any visa, without any documents. So there is no need to you have documents or anything. So it's very easy for the terrorists, Taliban, even Taliban from Pakistan or Taliban from Afghanistan, they can move and they can transport anything. So before that, Taliban they took that Afghanistan. Even they have been warned to the people of Parachinar that someday we will attack and we will take Parachinar. Why? Because in the 2007, when I was in Pakistan, there was a fight between Taliban and the Shia Muslim. So, and we were just the first people from Parachinar that we have defeated Taliban in 2007. In whole Pakistan, we were the only one people we have been defeated Taliban. So there is nobody has defeated Taliban in the history, but we did. So that's why they have been one. And few days ago, I saw the news they captured 4 Taliban in Parachinar, and now they already took Afghanistan. So I know and I feel that someday they will attack on my city where my family lives right now in Pakistan. Oh, I feel worry about it all the time, and I feel worry and feel sad about the people of Afghanistan because the innocent people are dying. And I do feel worry, and I cannot go back to the situation of Parachinar because I have seen and I have been in a situation that seems like in a action movies. Our life have been in a action movies. Maybe you guys have been watching movies like action movies, but we have been in a situation that more difficult than action movies also. And the Taliban, I have seen them by my own eyes in 2007. They are very dangerous, and their faces, their dress is even, I cannot explain how they are because I have seen them. And now they are saying nothing will happen in Afghanistan. I know something will bad will happen to the people of Afghanistan, and this will happen to my city also because we are in the border area, and there was never peace in my city, and there will be never peace in my city, and that's why I never want to go back to Pakistan, never ever. And the most important thing is I am belongs to a Shia Muslim, and Shia Muslim are targeted in Pakistan everywhere, kidnapping, target killing. So that's why there is no chances to go back for me. That's all.
Thank you, Ashfaq, for sharing that. Another one of those lesser known facts, there are a lot of Pakistanis that also had to escape as a refugee because of their beliefs. Sadly, uh, I actually learned a lot of very, very new things when I started this documentary. Um, so I want to throw the question to Aziza. Aziza, can you tell me what is it like to be a woman and a refugee in Indonesia, and what is it like to be stateless? Because that's another topic that we haven't actually talked, and none of us have generally talked about in these um, documentaries. Again, that's yeah, just your opinion, Aziza, your insights.
Oh, okay, Alfred. In my opinion, being a woman in the refugee and as a refugee and also as a stateless, it's so hard because we are among the community which are still close-minded. They are not open-minded. So uh, when a community they are close-minded, they always think that a woman is a slave, that woman should not do this, woman should have no right to do that. And then when a woman talk with a man or a woman having a relationship, all of them is wrong. And also sometimes women when they study, uh, they might say that, oh yeah, you are doing why you want to do study, why you should do the study. The woman job is just taking care of a husband, taking care of a husband, of a family, and also cooking, cleaning. Woman job is just doing that. So women don't deserve to do this, and women don't deserve to do that. So it's what I see from everyone, and also that's my own experience. Where my father, he was supporting me to go to school, but one problem, he's kind of religious, so he want me just to talk with the girls. But sometimes when I go to the class, although most of my classmates are boys and men, so it's less women to study because they said that when a woman go to study, they fall in love with someone and they will have a relationship, they will do like this, they will become a playgirl, something like that. So some of parents, they don't let their daughter to study or to go to the schools. So my father, he let me before, but due to my community, most of my community said, oh my god, your daughter have a boyfriend. She was talking with the boys. Even though when we talk, because most of my classmates was boys, so sometimes I must to talk with them because of homework, and then sometimes we become one group or one team in study or lessons or doing some things. So sometimes I have to talk to them, and people when they saw, they will just say, oh yeah, I have a boyfriend, and they will start saying that to my fathers, and then my father just say, oh, why you do like this, why you do like this. When I try to explain him, father, I don't do this, I don't do that, and he said, no, whatever people said, it's right. So from here I saw that women's rights are very, very, they really, really keep women as a very not worth it. They have no value. And one day my father said to me that, you know what, everyone said to me, even I know that a woman, they are useless because a woman just bring a shame to the world, to the family. women just get pregnant, and you see boys, even if they go with the girls, they do nothing. They are still clean. But the women, they will bring a shame, a bad name to the family. And from since that I was like 15, I was almost loose with the cultures. I was almost giving up, even though I don't want to give up, but I have less support. But since I made these documentaries, I try to fight with the cultures. And after I made these documentaries, I met Alfred and Junaid, and then we talk a lot, and then I opened my eyes that, oh yeah, I'm stuck in the situation where cultures that people bring from their country, they still have it here. They still use it in this place. So I have a hope that one day, if I can get out from this place, I can change everyone's minds, and I will show them that a woman, they are not useless, and also a woman, they are a great creatures of God. They are so great, they are so kind, and also they are not useless like other people say. So it's a bit hard that when I know there's a lot of women here who are very, very great, who are very smart, but due to like cultures and also families and also community, they stop. Like they said, oh, no problem. They live their dreams. I know there's a lot of women who have a lot of dreams, but they live their dreams. They live it because of cultures and community. So I believe that one day, if I can be an activist, I will fight for a woman's right. That I believe that a woman, they deserve to have a right and equality, same like men. The same way like men do, women should have the same equality. And then I don't want anyone see a woman as less from a man, or they see a woman as a bitch. No, if a boy can do this, a girl can do this also. I see in my community that when a boys, they go with the girls, they go with the 10 girls even in night. No one said anything about them. No one said anything. But when a girls, they go with one boys, everyone start calling her slut or bitch. So I believe on equality. So I will try to make it through. I will try to find an equality for everyone. And I hope one day I can get it. Because I believe every woman is perfect. Every woman is
Thank you.
perfect and great.
Thank you, Azizah. Those words were very, very sobering. Now, of course, what has happened to Azizah doesn't happen to all the women in refugees in Indonesia, but majority of what Azizah has told us, probably a lot of women around the world can relate, and even those that are in a stable family, even those that are in a supporting and loving community, a loving family, they might still face persecutions of just other things from the community. So again, so that's why I really want to hear a woman's perspective, because we don't really hear that often in any refugee documentaries from Indonesia, generally speaking. Now I have another question to ask, and this is to both Junaid, sorry, to all of Junaid, Azizah, and Ashfaq, but individually. Where are your lives right now, and what are you guys hoping for, moving forward in the future? I believe Junaid does have some good news. If you are happy to share that, we'll get Junaid to start first, and then Ashfaq will have you next, and then Azizah last. So Junaid, let's share that. There you go.
I guess, Alfred, before we answer this question, I think there is still some information that would be worth sharing with the people here, because they would need to know how I guess we have explained very little about the policy, how they
Yes.
how it has impacted about the refugees' life in Indonesia.
Yes.
So like
Just make sure we are mindful of time. It's 8:19 now, so just try to explain it in 5 minutes.
yep. So now the question is, now that the boat has stopped going to Australia, as we all are aware that not many refugees are taken boat from Australia. So what is the policy means now? What this policy is doing now to the refugees? What does it mean? Why the Australian policy is still affecting the refugee by in what way? So this is very concerning at the moment. So over the years, I have been observing the developments of these policies and how they are implementing, this policy in Indonesia. As we all know that, and the Alfred have described, this policy is channeled through the IUM fundings, because Australia literally want to avoid being responsible for the destruction of refugees in Indonesia by playing the roles behind the scenes and putting the third party in front of everyone. So which is IUM, and then so until 2013, the policy was to stop the boat. That was the clear intention. But after 2013, I have observed that the policy intention has changed to into something very different, which is like changed into more psychological trauma for refugees, because Australia believed that driving refugees to despair and the hopelessness, then refugee would be forced and compelled to take up voluntary repatriation, and will tell to the people who might be thinking to come to Indonesia and go take boat to Australia, that the clear message that Australia wanted to send to the people is that this is what gonna happen if you come to Australia by using the refugees in Indonesia. So what I mean by this, the policy has transformed into a psychological trauma for refugees, is that Australia now want to force the remaining refugee to return back to their country. So in order to achieve this goal, Australia has hardened the refugees' life in Indonesia. Just like I said, in 2020, in the year 2020, Australia told us that if you don't take boat to Australia, we will resettle you through the UNHCR program. But in 2014, Australia implemented another policy that says refugee arrive after 2014 in July will no longer be available to resettle in Australia. So Australia is somehow trying to play with our philosophy, with our mentality, and then now, uh, now that the refugees are trapped in Indonesia, so Australia is now like compelling the refugee, to harden the refugees' life in Indonesia. They cut the refugees fund, and on the other hand, I have many times discover and discuss with the local Indonesians and also the policy officers and many other activists. And I have learned that Indonesia somehow tried to change the system and maybe better the situation of refugee. But again, Australia's influence prevent all these changes, because at the same time, if Indonesia signed the signatory to the UN Convention, then Indonesia need to like be responsible for all the for the refugees in Indonesia. But by not signing the convention, Indonesia can simply hand the refugee issue to the international community, and also benefit from the refugee, because Australia has spent billions of money in Indonesia. So at some point, if Australia stop, spending money in Indonesia, and Indonesian government will somehow be compelled to sign the UN Convention and accept the local integration. And that's one of the reasons why, uh, Indonesia is not signing the convention, because of the Australian influence. And on the other hand, refugee do not want to, go to Australia under any circumstances, because our intention, our hopes was to seek safety, not just Australia. We were fleeing from war and from prosecutions just to find a safe place to find to be free somewhere. So we would be happy to be resettled anywhere in the country. But again, the Australia's influence somehow also prevent the refugee resettlement. And that's because they believe that if refugees are being resettled through UNHCR program, then more refugees will come. That's also the influence of Australia. So Australia's influence trapped everywhere, infected every opportunities for refugees. So that's why I said this, after 2020, after 2013, Australia's policy has transformed into more philosophical trauma, psychological trauma for refugees. And now the refugees are given only two options: whether to remain in this limbo forever and die, suffering from mental crisis, or to repatriate. That is the only two options. And right now, most of the refugees are actually, as you know, from the world most persecuted minority and world most persecuted people, and from the war-stricken countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Rohingya, myself. And particularly for Hazara and for Rohingya, it's impossible to return back to their country because we have been denied our citizenship rights since 1992. And for the Hazara, it's not a question for them to return now. These are the same Taliban that has been massacring Hazara for generations. And now they are in control of the country. So it is not a question for them to return. So I'm writing now an article to address that Australia need to restart the resettlement for refugees and need to change its policy into more humanitarian. So why I'm saying this to you all today, at the end of the day, we all know that history will rewind back, and then the history will judge the Australian one day. And I do not want to see this phase coming, in the future to judge the Australians, because of the refugee situations. So this is now up to the Australian citizen, because as you have now seen that we have been waiting for nearly a decade, to for the government to find us a solution and international community. But as you can see, the situation is even getting worse and worse every day, and there is no changes happening. So which means we can no longer rely on any international community or UNHCR or any governmental agencies to find us about a solution. So the only hope for refugees right now, that the refugees are somehow trying to tell the people, and also especially Australian, that we need your support. We need your citizen support. We want you to raise the concerns, to raise our suffering in Indonesia, because we can no longer, as Azizah and Ashfaq already shared their experience, that no NGOs respond to refugees, at the moment. Many refugees like trying to get attention of NGOs, governments, nobody responded. So there is no one to hear for refugees. So the only people that can help save refugees is the citizens of both countries, not just Australia, but Indonesia also partly responsible for refugee, for being silent over the persecutions of refugee, and their government is being corrupted, in this refugees humanitarian crisis. So both citizens are responsible for the destructions of refugees' life, and therefore it is the responsibility of both countries' citizens, to uphold, its government, and then lobby for the refugees, how they have been persecuted. So if you need more evidence, there are clear informations, articles, and a scholar research being published on internet. And I have also covered many facts on this issue. So you can use this as a resource, on your advocacy. So we are trying our best. So we need your support at the moment. We cannot rely on any governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Junaid. Wise words. We do have to rush a little bit. We will get Ashfaq and Azizah to speak very soon, but I just want to clarify that this is not an either or situation. It's not about it's not about prioritizing refugees that are already here or from any scenario. What's happening in Indonesia is just another equivalent. This is just the other side that a lot of people are just not fully aware of. And sadly, not a lot of activists or advocates in here are actually aware of the Indonesian side of things. So my role here in this film is to bring this to light, as well as connecting all the dots. And my end goal for this film is to have this film to be used as a tool for advocates and activists and any organizations across Australia, Indonesia, New Zealand, wherever, to be used as a tool for advocacy, to be used as a tool for change. I'm not trying to make any money out of this film, other than to cover some costs. Now, this is the part of the night where we will have a little bit of story time. We will start with Azizah. If you can share your video as well, it'll be even more powerful. And then we'll have Ashfaq to also, Joniad to also share his poetry that he has prepared. Azizah, do you want to tell your very heavy story that you want to share for us tonight?
Yeah, can you give me a second?
Sure. If the connection is not too good, then it's okay. Just audio, that's fine.
Oh.
If in the next 1 minute, Aziz is not able to attend to this, maybe we'll go with Joniad's poetry first, but we'll see what she has to do in the next minute.
Yes.
We'll just have to wait
Alfred?
for another minute, just in case, with Azizah. When she's ready, just a moment. Azizah, are you okay? If you guys are wondering, Azizah actually is now a mother since the interview that I first had in 2018. So if she is a little bit busy, it's because of her having to actually take care of a child.
Sorry, Alfred, can you check your WhatsApp, please? And then can you pause it for tonight first, because I have something to do.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll get Joniad to read his poetry first. Azizah, we will come back to that very shortly.
All right. So I have written this poetry when I was in IOM accommodation. That this is how I felt being under this inhuman restriction imposed by the immigration, and that's one of the reasons why I had to flee from Makassar. So I named the poetry as the weary souls, the intolerable waiting game and ending certainty of any future that all refugee in Indonesia must endure. This is the fate of refugee in Indonesia. Freedom for us like a star in the night sky. We see them every night. They look beautiful glittering in the night sky. Our heart desire yearn to touch and feel them, but we cannot reach them. They seem billions of meters far away from us. Their freedom for us is like a fish in the glass of water, only surviving with breathable water. Hope for a change is like waiting for the sky to fall down. Dream for a better future is like dreaming in a deep sleep. When we wake up, everything it is just vanished. shattered into small pieces. Every day we water our passion with tears, but it dries up constantly. It seems we are being constantly pushed and pushed farther back toward any hope of resettlement and any durable solution for our future. Without any right to work, study, to move around, our days and nights are becoming more unbearable by the moments. We no longer wait for an opportunity to live as human beings, stuck in this hellish limbo of either returning or being killed, or slowly dying in this unending fate of ours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joniad. Very, very inspiring. Okay, Azizah, your turn.
Okay, today I want to talk about my mother, Razia, my mother. So I was as lonely, as unwanted, and as isolated a girl can be. Before I tell my story, I just want all of you to take a moment to appreciate where you are in your life and breathe, as I am about to share of one of my painful memories. I wanted to share this because I wanted to be able to process all of this and become free. I want to be accepted and be recognized for who I truly am, a human being worthy of deserving love and belonging, to be wanted and to be part of something great. I want my story to inspire the drive for change and end all of this nightmare, not just for my life, but for all 14,000 of us and all the women who have to go through all of this suffering. I was born as a refugee. I have never really known what a real home is. I'm never homeless. But wherever I go, I was never wanted. I never know where I am from, and I don't have any citizenship. I sometimes think that the beggar are still lucky because they have a country. I don't belong anywhere. And because I was a girl, everyone in my community always think less of me. I sometimes wonder if I'm seen as less because I grew up without a mother. My mother and my father meet in Malaysia. They both are refugees running away from Myanmar. But my father is Rohingyan and my mother is Karen people who are also persecuted in Myanmar. One day my father bought my mother in Kuala Lumpur. Before long, they soon got married. In Malaysia, it takes a long time to get recognized by UNCHR as refugees. And not long after they are married, they had me. But my mother left me when I was 10 months old. They always tell me that she was a bad woman, but I remain curious for many years. I keep wondering why. Growing up in Kuala Lumpur, I often wonder what it's like to have someone who unconditionally loves me. All the stepmom I had never truly cared for me. They feed and clothe me, but they never really give the tender love and attention that I always been looking for. To them, I'm just additional responsibility because they married my father, and his relationship with this woman never lasts too long. I never really to get settled anywhere and build a strong relationship anywhere. My life is constantly on the move, always on the run, moving from Malaysia to Indonesia in the hopes of trying to find a way to come to Australia, but our hope were quickly killed because we were arrested in Makassar. Our dreams of freedom are lost. But it wasn't until we were forced to stay in Makassar that I had time to think and wonder about my mother again. Our limitation of freedoms and living in limbo has made me think about what it would be to have a mom. There are many things a daughter can say to a mother that a father from a conservative community will never understand. During these times, around the age of 13, my father had become increasingly more controlling of me. I'm getting older, and some of the experience I have to go through with him were too horrible to be told here. Because of this, I increasingly turned to idea of searching my mother, hoping she would be the one who can save me from this hell. But I even don't know if she is alive. After years of search, a miracle happened. One of the women in our community in the city who knows me and my father approached me, and she happens to be a good friend of my mother's. And finally, after 16 years, I have connected with my mother for the first time. I was over the moon. I felt like I finally had hope for the first time in my life, and that I can finally begin to heal. But it wasn't easy, not simply because I had a whole life to catch up on, but because my mother and I do not speak the same language. She only speaks Burmese and Swedish, and she only knows a little bit of English and Malay, while I don't know any Swedish or Burmese. I must admit communication was not easy for either of us, and we often had to use a dictionary and body language to fill the gaps in our communication. And we are separated by more than 1,000 kilometers away. Our only way to communicate is through the video calling and texting. To this day, I have never actually seen my mom physically since I was 10 months, and I eventually learned that my father has grown to be abusive and controlling at the same time toward my mom's. Because my mom has no protection yet from UNCR as their cases were still processed, my father took this opportunity and made a decision to keep me as punishment for my mother to leave the relationship. This must be the toughest decision in her life, and she was only 17. Despite poor video call signals and language barrier, we managed to share everything that we both have missed. I learned a lot about how the Swedish are helping my mom, and how foreign and difficult it was for her to integrate. I'm yet to be resettled, but now at least I'm learning about this challenge, so one day I can learn and be prepared for resettlement. At this point, I have already started to think about getting resettled into Sweden so that I can be reunited with my mother, away from my father who has been more and more controlling me since I become more physically mature. But soon I learned that my father was not letting me go out of my custody. I was so furious. I learned that in order for my mother to be able to have resettled me into Sweden, I have to get my father permission simply because my UNCR case was under my father custody, and my mother had no right to take me unless my father consented. So there, now I'm back again at the square one again. I have tried confusing to her about how safe I feel about staying with him so much, but I don't know if this will ever help. So I just continue having conversation with my mom, but deep, I think both of us are disappointed with the reality. Around these times, I also have told her how guys are now starting take interest in me. I'm not having boys as my friends, but I wasn't thinking about serious yet. For God's sake, I have only just started to slowly develop my understanding about all this. I wanted to learn more about what this is and wait until I'm ready before I'm officially committing to a marriage with the right person. After all, I was only 15 at this point. I don't know what my mother feels about me telling all of my concern and thought. I hate myself sometimes because my life often has a lot of suffering. And when I confess to people, everyone who listens to my story is overwhelmed. No doubt, all of this must be overwhelming for her. She had only catch up with me for less than a year at this point, at best through good signal video calls. Around this time, my community is becoming more concerned as I'm growing to become more and more mature. And some of my female friends are also starting to take interest in the same boys that I am. Suddenly, I saw them changing from being a good friends to being full of suspicions. And believe me, I try to be as honest and open as I can. But at this point, I also had a good friend as well who I spent time with. But because it was a male friend and not too long after, some word go out and the rumor is that I have been spending night together. I'm so arranged by this. I don't know even how I can actually do it. I had wanted to save myself until marriage, and I certainly don't appreciate being accused of being a slut. It was too late. My father heard about the rumors and started beating me up, and I had no opportunity to explain everything to him because he didn't want to listen. At this time, I feel like I had done something wrong myself, but I never did anything. No one would believe me, but it was too late because the word spread into my conservative community so much. But when I was speaking about this to her, my mom, she find it hard to believe me. Perhaps it's because of our language barrier too, but she was so disappointed on me. She said that she thought I was better than other girls, but it turns that she think I'm the same as anyone else. Maybe because she had me when she was 17 and thinking that her daughter is repeating the same mistake as her. I have done nothing. I have tried to explain everything in the best way possible in our broken Malay and English language, but she will not believe me. She was very sad to hear all this. I wasn't even able to deal with all of how I feel. I just wanted to speak the truth. Eventually, my mother and I had to stop talking. It had become too much painful for us to deal with. I have reached my lowest point in my life, and all I can think about is suicide. Why I am here? Why do I have to suffer for something I have never done? Why do I have to be born? And I tried to suicide, but always I have a good friend who saved me from it. Soon I stopped talking with my mom. I wasn't sure by her anymore. I cannot die. And all of this time I have to deal with myself. It's impossible for a refugee girl like me to access a psychologist. My female friends are not very helpful or at all since rumor has separate. At this point, the only thing I can do is pray. I pray to God that one day I have the strength to heal. I have the strength to rise up and fight for my rights. I pray that one day the world will believe a girl like me. I pray that one day, as a stateless refugee girl, I can be a respected woman who will be free from all of this suffering. I was 16 when I stopped talking to my mother after spending time with her online just for over a year. I'm not good with writing, so I needed the help of my international friends, but I'm good at speaking. And I'm a woman who stands for their rights. I don't want to be trapped in the thinking of conservative peoples. Nobody understands me from my community, and I know that there is a better word out there. I have not healed yet from all of this. I think this will take my entire life to process. Razia was a mother I once had. It's still too painful for me to remember about her. But maybe one day I can prove her wrong and the world will finally hear my voice for who I really am. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Aziza. Um, I know she had to do a little bit of a speed read there, but uh, I'm personally lost for words myself. What do you guys think? Anybody wants to anything to say? just to fill in.
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
I'd like to say something. Hello.
Highlight.
Thank you, Aziza. I think that many people here would like to reach out because we're all interested in boys and girls around those times, at the same time. And our parents always encourage us to, am I frozen? Hello?
Little bit.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
okay.
And our parents always encourage us to get married around then, around a young age as well. So what's really happening, Aziza, is they want to control who you like and who you marry, because the age is not the problem, because they want us to have a family at a young age. So you have done nothing wrong. I think they have an agenda, Aziza. Our parents have agendas, communities have agendas, but we will still be human. And I think many of us here want to support you because everything you do is what a normal human does. So we support you. And I think I've put my information down in case you would like, because I think I have some skills to help. Because your mother should understand that you're very vulnerable, and it's not about her, it's about you. And the fact that she made it about her shows it's her agenda. But we here listen to you, and we want to fight for your rights and your agenda, because you always fight for everyone else's rights. Thank you very much, Azizah.
We will come back to Ashfaq again very soon, but anyone else? Don't be shy. This is the first time that Azizah has ever shared this anywhere in public. I've had a discussion with her, and I asked of her whether she was ready to share this to the world, and she said yes. Okay. So Giles says, thank you for sharing this aspect of your life, Azizah. I hope you leave with good feedback and tips for everything. Gabriel says, thank you, Azizah, for sharing your story, and thank you, Lan. Well said. Now, anybody else wants to add in to that? Okay, Pat Rayner says, thank you, Azizah, for sharing your very powerful story. Personally, I want to say thank you, Azizah, for showing the courage. I think times like this, I mean, COVID is certainly not helping. And again, not to discern any of the male refugees and the refugees with families out there. I think it's important to understand these perspectives. And I'm glad that I will be able to help share this. Yes, we will be sharing more about the facts of the Australian agendas of how they're doing it. And we will also combine that with the parallels of their personal stories. So that's how the film structure will play out. If anybody's interested in that. And we will hear a little bit more about the journey as well as what everybody else's journey as well. Now, Ashfaq, I just want you to share a little bit about how you came about to Indonesia and what you had to go through. This is your opportunity to just have a little bit of a story. So, you don't feel like you're on the side, since you are also another star of the documentary. And also talk about what your situation is like, because I heard that you are trying to set up something.
Alfred, can you please explain what the question?
So just tell me what a little bit of your experience in Indonesia and how you came to Indonesia, so that people understand about your background a little bit more, and yeah, talk about your plans for the future.
Okay, there is, I think, the planning is just to stay here, hopeless. Just you're like watching dreams with open eyes. The one hope only this documentary that you gave us, and that the events and the fundraising that you have been started for me. But I think it's very slow, but at least you started for me, and I'm thankful to you that you came here to Indonesia 2 times to raise our voice and to share our this painful story to the world. Hopefully, there will be someone to listening to us, and there will be someone to help us. And I will just request to the people to do something for us to take out us from this limbo. And just because I want to get out of this situation, not because of not just for me, just for my family. I just want to take them out from the hell because I know how they are feeling and how they are doing. I just want to take them out and I just want to save them. I don't want something will happen to my family as like it happened in Afghanistan recently. So hopefully there will be someone to take us out of here, and I hope there and I wish I get a chance to save my family and other I can. Yeah, that's all, Alfred. Otherwise, I don't have so many things in my mind. You know that the stress make me dumb. I don't know what to say and I don't have anything because I am dealing with too much stress, mentally stress, and just laying on bed and doing nothing at all. So mentally, and I'm empty. That's all.
How will people be able to help each and every one of you guys?
Yeah, they can only help like from Canada, like they can do fundraising and as like a stipend, they told me you need to find 5% from Canada from one community and you need to raise about 18,000 Canadian dollar. So we have been collected almost more than 1,000 Australian dollar, but I do need 17,000 Australian dollar, I think, to get a sponsorship for myself. I think it's a big amount and it's difficult to search by people, but at least I'm going to try. And Alfred is the one who is helping me through this. And there were some people from Australia, they were helping me, and some of them from Canada. So let's see what will happen. Yeah, that's all, Alfred. I don't have many things to say because I
That's
feel,
okay.
yeah,
Thank
but
you,
sorry.
Ashfaq. For those of you who are interested in helping with Ashfaq's fundraiser at another time, um, I will give Ashfaq's contact, but I will also share his fundraiser details here. Uh, please help us to find Ashfaq sponsors. It's not that it's quite difficult to reach out to Canadians at the moment, but things are opening up there very quickly because they have very good vaccination rates. So things are back to normal. Uh, but again, this is just where we're at the moment. Joniad, before we
Sorry, Alfred.
yes,
Alfred, can I just mention something? So my background is I'm a refugee, asylum seeker, boat person, left when I was 3. We went to Malaysia by boat, a 3-day boat trip. And the boat capsized before we got there. But when we were leaving the original country, soldiers were shooting at us. So when we got to Malaysia and Indonesia were not signatories, but the international community or countries decided that they would set up structures within Malaysia to have migrant centers to process. And so different officials came to our camps to interview people, and we were offered asylum to, I think, 3 different countries. So I think what's happening is that as the crisis in the economies around the world deepen, and they obviously need to use a lot more scapegoating happening, and they've chosen unemployed people, and then they chose single mothers, and now they're choosing refugees. So my view from my background is that Ashfaq and Azizah and others need specialist support. So it's not like, oh, that was a nice story, stay strong. It's not about that. It's about they need specialized people who can resettle, who can provide, you know, the financial aid and this resettlement. And the governments are absolving themselves of that responsibility. So I think it'd be really sad for us to finish this, you know, event as, oh, well, you know, stay strong. I just don't think that's right. And I think we've got to try to connect, you know, volunteers within the refugee movement. Like if you've got specialist skills.
Oh, you're frozen. Oh no, Lance frozen. Very wise words. Very wise words from Lan. Certainly that is something that I also wanted to bring up, but she did bring it up first. Just before we wrap up with tonight's event, Junaid, you have a good news, right?
Yeah, I am about to fly to Canada. Hopefully, maybe in coming months, in 2 or 3 months. So I will be working, I will be doing more activism and more journalism on refugee in Indonesia. I am committed to, like, you know, I will not be free until all the refugees are free from Indonesia. No matter where I am, no matter in what position I am, I would always be working for refugees in Indonesia, and that's my commitment. Until they are free, I will not be free. Thank you.
And when it comes to creating a supportive and creating a community and supporting us, that's one of my goals. I'm only one person. I have a few crews that I pay. I have a few crew in the film documentary that I pay. I also help all of my friends in Indonesia as best as I can, especially providing them with tools and the skills. I also help with establishing some connections to the Canadians for some of my friends, but I am only one person. I'm not saying that this is a plea for everybody to help. The situation right now with just the 3 of my friends, that is optional. Obviously, you guys have the choice to have a chat and get in touch with my friends directly. If you guys are interested, please email us at pioneeroffreedomstreet@gmail.com. I will send that in the text again. If not, I'll email you guys again for that. Yes, it's wonderful news to Junaid, and through his perseverance in his journalism activities, he has actually garnered some very interested Canadians, and all of this happened prior to the lockdown and the COVID situation. So I'm very happy that he's going to be continuing the advocacy. With Azizah and Ashfaq, it's going to be some time, but I think now that their stories are heard, hoping that their stories will pave way for other stories later on in the future. But just to remember, as much as it is about their stories, this documentary is also about the journalistic facts that will be presented and explain how this will all be connected. And there will be more Indonesian soundtracks in the film, which hopefully should be very, very refreshing for a lot of Australian audience out there when it comes to Australian documentaries. Again, if you guys can spread the words about a specific film fundraising, documentary Australia.au/update/freedom-street, Google that. But for tonight, I'm just very, very thankful for the opportunity to be able to share a little bit about us and tell about us and show a little bit about a little bit of the film, for that matter. I know that you guys will have to go very, very soon, but I just want to ask if Azizah, Ashfaq, and Junaid have any last minute words, and if there's any last minute questions that you guys want to bring up. Yeah, Junaid, want to say something? The Mark Goodcamp asked a question. When will this film might be completed? We are aiming to have a draft of it by October. We will try to start screening, soft launch for the screening in December, when things are opening up in New South Wales, really hoping those vaccine numbers are doing its job with the community. We really want to get our freedom as soon as possible so we can actually hold a physical screening. That's our goal, and we are gonna also send it to festivals and around the world. But I have a request to a lot of advocates out here. Since this film is designed to be a tool for advocacy and change, I would like to extend this film to be used for your advocacy and tools. So if you guys are interested in holding a screening, I'll be more than happy to screen this and share this with you guys as much as possible. There will be some arrangements that will be made. Just directly email me or just contact us for further details when this is done. But our soft launch will be in December, hopefully, and the big marketing campaign for what needs to be done will be from mid-January onwards after the New Year's break and Christmas break. Okay. Azizah, just a 1 minute word, 1 minute thank you. Anything else to say? And then Ashfaq and then Joniad.
And I don't know what to say, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who has joined this event today. You know, sometimes when I'm alone, I think that I have no one in this place, but Alfred and also our Joniad and Ashfaq and also documentary teams, they always give me a new hope that, yeah, I always think that it is going to be like this forever. But when I saw these great guys like Alfred and Junaid and Ashfaq, and then I believe that, yeah, I have to pass this and I am going to reach the stars soon. So I want to thank everyone who joined this event. I'm so thankful that all of you wanted to listen our voice, and I hope that one day I can do something what I want, and I can make everyone proud of me, that I shared not just my stories, but stories of 1,000 women who are suffering. And I can be one of activists to talk about everyone. And that's all. Thank you.
Ashfaq or Joniad?
Yeah, so from my end, I just want to tell you a little bit about what can happen with your advocacy and with your power. For example, you know, the situation in Manus and Nauru has now changed, and most of the refugees are able to resettle and find solutions, but some are unlucky enough. And that's because of your power, that's because of your support, not because of the government, not because of international community. And I have seen how Australian has worked hard, you know, to raise the issue in the international community. So that's one of the great achievement of Australian, you know, advocacy and also the support of the citizen. So the same thing could happen for refugees in Indonesia as well. And the reason why thing has not changed in Indonesia is because there has been lack of advocacy coming from both Australia and Indonesia. And also the issue has not been raised widely enough. And on the other hand, the government are not being pressured to make any changes. And there are actually two possible solutions for refugees. At the end of the day, all the refugee would be able to resettle to anywhere. Like it's very likely that half of the refugee would be remaining in Indonesia, and then so we should at least try to you know resettle as much as possible, not just Australia but also to other countries. And so one of the things that the reason why we need to raise the awareness and lobby our governments and your governments and everyone's around and every governmental agency is because the first thing that we're trying to do is to like improve the refugees human rights situation a bit better in Indonesia, because many refugees, like nearly 90% of the refugees are suffering mentally, and this mental health is as serious as cancer, as I have no experience and witness about nearly 15 refugees I don't know the exact number because many refugees suicide are hidden, from being investigated. So from my observation, I knew that at least 15 refugees have committed suicide, and nearly, many uncountable number of refugees have died in Indonesia. From my limited research, I found out about 30 refugees, and these refugees are around the age of 25, 13, and that, the oldest one are like 40. So these refugees are dying untimely, because of untimely medication and lack of medical neglect, and because also when they suffer mentally, this mental disorder later developed into many serious diseases, and they do not get timely medication on that. Everything is very difficult in Indonesia. So refugees are dying and there is no solutions. That's why we're trying to somehow prove we kind of like demanded the government that the government should at least like provide temporary stay and pursue an education. So later when they have enough skill, they may be able to apply, scholarship and job, vacation to other countries. So that way they could maybe find a solution. But it would only happen when there is enough pressure coming from the citizens, from the general citizen. We all know that a policy can be changed with the power of citizens, with the input of citizens. So the reason why nothing has changed is because everything is appear and clear that there hasn't been enough, advocacy, enough, attention coming from the nations of the country. So I would like to request all the Indonesian and the Australian on behalf of the refugee community here to raise this issue and promote the awareness of refugees as widely as possible. And your power is matter, your support is matter for refugees. Thank you.
Ashfaq, any last words?
I just want to say to thanks to all of you for listening to us, to the people who are mean nothing to the world as like us. And uh, as Junaid he said, your support is very important to us. If you guys support us, anything can be happen as like happen in Papua New Guinea and another other detention center. And thanks once again to every one of you. Hopefully this event will bring some hope for us, and we wish and we hope that you guys will be able to help us as soon as possible. Yeah, thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Ashfaq. And very sobering, yet another sobering piece of information from Junaid. I always have admired um, him and his journalistic skills from day one. And I'm also just at an awe with Ashfaq's story and background, which you guys will find out in the film, and as well as Azizah's. Again, if you want to help us complete that, visit our website at freedomstreetfilm.com. That website has all the information regarding our project and where we're at. We are also on social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, not TikTok. I don't have the time for that just yet, but we will get to that once the film is done. We might have some TikTok accounts. But other than that, thank you guys for being able to attend, and thank you for staying over at 9 p.m. I know there's a lot of things to say for some of us, and I know that these guys have been waiting for a very, very long time. Some of them their whole life to be able to have this opportunity. Before I go, do you guys have any other any last minute questions? Or just any regards that you want to convey to all of these people? If not, we will wrap it up in 2 minutes. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for your attendance. You guys have anything else that you guys want to do tonight? This will be it. Thank you again. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday night with us. For being able to attend to this event. Now I will have to go and eat my dinner because I haven't had dinner just yet, and I'm sure some of you haven't had that. Again, you can contact us at our website, freedomstreetfilm.com, to make it easier, or our email, which is also on the website, at pioneerofreedomstreet@gmail.com. If you guys would like to get in touch directly with the stars of the film, with Joniad, with Azizah, with Ashfaq, email us and we will share their contact details, and hopefully you guys will be able to chat. And thank you, Shuganya, for sharing the information about the plight of the Sri Lankan refugees in Indonesia. We will try to pass it on to all the relevant people from my network. And yeah, have a good night. And thank you so much for being able to attend to this. And I hope you guys enjoy my background, my background photos. Yeah, hopefully it's interesting. And yeah, thanks guys. Stay safe, and please encourage others to vaccinate so we can actually have a physical screening. We don't want to do another Zoom again. We want to do physical screenings. Please encourage everyone in your community to vaccinate in Sydney or anywhere else in Australia, so that more freedom, so I can travel more, so I can show this film, and I can, when we can all continue to advocate for refugee rights, not just in Australia, not just in Manus Nauru, not just those that are affected just here, but also in Indonesia and beyond. And for those of you who joined late, really sorry, but you can still access the recording of this on our YouTube channel. Again, you can access our YouTube channel from our website, or you can just type in Freedom Street Documentary on YouTube. Have a good night, everyone. I will now officially close this meeting. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.